What is up, and welcome to Real Advice in Relationships. I'm your host, Keisha, aka Author K.O. Sterling, and I want to thank you for tuning in to the podcast. As you're enjoying today's episodes, please rate this podcast, share this podcast, but most of all, download the podcast episodes. So sit back, turn up that dial, and enjoy this Southern girl share some real advice in relationships. Hey guys, what is up? This is your girl Keisha, aka Author K.O. Sterling, and I'm back today to do another podcast episode. I hope that real advice in relationships finds you well wherever you're listening to this, whenever you're listening to it. I hope that this finds you well. I wanted to come on here and I wanted to do something a little bit different with the podcast on today. I wanted to talk about, of course, relationships, but I wanted to kind of dissect Wendy Williams' failed relationship and how it relates to us as everyday women, as everyday, the regular working class girl, right? I wanted to take her story and I wanted to apply it and use it as a teaching tool here on today's episode of Real Advice in Relationships. So on today, we will be doing a celebrity segment, I guess you could say. And I do not talk about celebrity news, but this is going to be very fun. It's going to be very interesting, right? Because I feel like essentially we are all her in some aspect. We have a lot of similarities with Wendy Williams. So today's episode is titled Wendy Williams, We Are Her. And I feel as if we are her because I think that just in general, Wendy just wanted to be loved. She wants to be loved. And before I dive too deep, let me first, if you don't know who Wendy Williams is, let me first, give her backstory. She is a radio personality. She's a TV personality now. She's a TV talk show host here in the United States, based out of New York. And she got her start in radio, right? And she did that for 20-something years. She was considered the Howard Stern of radio, right? Because she would say like outlandish things and so on and so forth. But that is how the world was introduced to Wendy Williams, through that radio show, okay? And then she made the switch to television. She was able to land her own TV show, and she was introduced to the world, okay? And so what essentially happened is that she was married to her husband. She was established in her career, her radio career and so forth. And she met this guy and she did what most people want to do. She got married, right? But I want to point out some red flags that I noticed in her docuseries. And today's episode is going to be based off of the movie and the docuseries that aired over the weekend, okay? And so she's literally been trending. She's been trending like literally all weekend, all week, okay? Because everybody has wanted to know like what's really going on. Like, how did she marry this guy and was married for 20-something years, and he stepped out and he had a full side piece and had a baby on her, and she's been dishing the gossip in the news on everybody else's relationship, and now hers has literally fallen apart. But I don't want to I don't want to discuss that from a malicious angle. I just want to get the gems and the jewels and the teaching points that can come from her story, because she definitely has had a whirlwind of a life, okay? But first I want to start off with the first point that I noticed, and I will relate that to our everyday lives, okay? Number one, her family did not want her to marry this guy, okay? Her family didn't want them to be together at all, Okay. And how often do we pick people? How often do we choose people that our family is not necessarily beholden to, right? It's kind of like that forbidden fruit, right? The story about the forbidden fruit, right? Eat from any tree, but don't eat from that tree. Okay. And it's as if we have that innate nature inside of us. We want what we want. Even the thing that may not be the best for us, we want it, right? We're attracted to the thing that may not be the best for us. The heart wants what the heart wants, okay? And we will stop at nothing to get it. We don't care what anybody says. We don't care if our parents, if our family say, hey, I don't think you should be with him. I don't think that's the person for you. We could have a good girlfriend in our life and she could be like, sis, I don't think that might not be for you. I don't think he's good for you. Girl, he all right. How many times do we turn down wisdom? How many times do we turn down good, wholesome advice and guidance and direction and caution because we want what we want? Now, I'm not blaming her. I'm just pointing out some similarities that she has that we have in common with her, right? Just as regular women, okay? And the second thing that I noticed is that he was 23, she was 29, and he basically told her he was not ready, okay? He wasn't ready to be in a relationship to that magnitude. No, they had been in a committed relationship. He wasn't ready to be married. I think there is this saying that goes that 90% of communication is nonverbal. And how often do we speak and we don't listen? How often do our man speak and we don't listen? I want to encourage the women today, please listen. When someone tells you something, listen. Don't analyze it for him. Don't think for him. Oh, he just talking. Oh, he just this or he just that. He's telling you. Listen to people when they talk. Oh, he's just emotional. Or he'll be all right. Listen to him when he speaks. That's the problem with us. That's the same problem Wendy had. She didn't listen to him. She was so ready for her fairy tale. She was tired of playing house. She didn't want to do it any longer. She wanted to get married. Like she was headed somewhere with that relationship, right? And so in following our first point, we want what we want. We want what we want to the magnitude it can overshadow what the other person wants or what they don't want, right? Because we want to be happy. It's about us, right? And the next thing that I noticed was that the relationship was shaky. It was shaky after they finally got married and everything. It was shaky at the very early on in the marriage, simply because she caught him cheating, right? She caught him cheating. So from that, it was shaky. And she didn't want to get a divorce simply because he cheated. Because, it could have just been a one-time thing. It just could have been a mistake or what have you. It just could have been a simple mistake. But this is the thing about cheating. It only goes one or two ways. Either it was a mistake and it won't happen again, or it may happen like way, way, way later on down the line and it's still a mistake, or they will just not get caught the next time, or they turn out to be a serial cheater, which she said that he was a serial cheater and a liar. So he's a manipulator, he's a liar, and he's a cheater. She knew that early on in the marriage, okay? How often as women we see the signs early on. We see the signs, we have the evidence, but we don't get out, okay? And what I want to kind of touch on is that Wendy has always been vocal about what socioeconomic class that she comes from. She's always talked about that she's a woman of a particular age, okay? And in saying that, in kind of thinking about all of this, it kind of makes sense, because people that tend to be from an upper echelon, not even upper echelon, because us people from, many of us, how many regular people that don't make that much money deal with crap, deal with stuff? How many times do we see the signs and we don't leave because we don't want to start over? We comfortable with the person that we will. We have no interest in learning anyone new. We have invested so much into this relationship, which leads me to my next point. She put in work to build up that family wealth. She put in work to build up that family wealth. And she put in work by upgrading him. Okay? And I talk about this in my book, I'm Enough. Please go out and purchase this book. This book will help your life. This book is a lifesaver. It is a preventative tool if you apply the things that are in it. And I talk about in that book, there's a fiscal segment it's a fiscal segment in that book in which I talk about how don't be so quick to pull out your purse and your pocketbook or your wallet to come to the beginning, the forefront of the relationships, to start financially investing in that whole relationship. Financially, no, don't do it. And that could be influenced by me coming from a certain age group in a certain era, right? And having a certain level of expectation. You just don't do it. Like, no, don't buy your man. Don't be a sugar mama. And I just feel like this is one of the biggest problems that was going on within this relationship, okay? Which is money, which leads me to my next point. This is why Wendy is mad, because she put so much money into that and just the family business, because I think they had a production company and so on and so forth that they made together. She built this family wealth, and she invested in this man only for the other woman to reap the benefits of that. She is mad about that. And this is an issue when you are how can I say this? If you are the primary breadwinner, as a woman, when you date someone who don't make what you make, if you get mad and you get angry, you probably will have an attitude where you look down on him. You probably will have an attitude where he should be appreciative. He should be grateful. I don't ask for much. I ask for him to love me, and I ask for him to be committed to me. If I'm putting in this work to make sure we both good, the least you can do is be loyal. The least you can do is be faithful. I'm not asking you for much, but can you please do that? But when she became hurt by his disloyalty to her and to that relationship, she unleashed the beast out on him. Okay, she talked about how he wasn't educated, this, that, and the third. But mind you, she wanted that bad dude. She wanted that street dude. Okay, which, she boasts and brags all the time about. I wouldn't say necessarily boast and brag. She prides herself in getting an education. She prides herself in her achievements. She prides herself of her level of independence, financial independence, and everything that she brings into the marriage, into the relationship. She prides herself in that, right? But in hindsight, that made her a target. That made her a target, y'all. Because she chose a street dude. And what street dudes do? They hustle. That's what they do. And how many times do you present yourself to a dude? You got it together. You got your own place. You got your own car. You got your own everything. Okay? It reminds me of that song. I think it's by the rapper Weebly or something like that. And it's the Independent song. Just look it up. It's an old school song. It reminds me of that song. Now, in no means, I don't think educated women or people who are well accomplished and independent people, I don't ever think you should lower yourself when you walk into a room or when you're in the company of someone to make them comfortable. But I do think it's wise to be mindful. It's wise to read the room, and don't be so arrogant, okay? It's a difference between confidence and arrogance, but if you ain't got no discernment, you won't be able to distinguish the two. But another thing that I also noticed is that in getting hustled by this street dude, because that's basically what I felt like it was. I felt like she got hustled by him. And again, she had this thing of how dare you break up outfit, how dare you. And for her, for Wendy, she was mad at the other chick. She came for the other chick. And I talk about that also in my book, I'm Enough. We go to the other chick as if she has some type of loyalty to us. She's not committed to you. That dude that did that to your family, that dude that did that to your heart, that broke your heart, he is committed to you. He is supposed to be monogamous with you. Is she trifling? Yeah. Is she grade A trifling? She doggone trifling. Yes, she is. But Wendy went for her by going for her and going for her baby. She said, all I got to say is keep her off the pole. And I hope the baby have more education than that mama and her daddy ever did. Because ain't neither one of them got no education. Wendy is hurt because he humiliated her. He embarrassed her. He basically did all of this in front of the world. And I talked about her age group and I talked about her class and seeing the signs early and deciding to stay for a reason. Because when you're from a certain class and when you're from a certain age group, some people have this mindset that men are just going to cheat as long as you don't get caught and as long as you don't bring that stuff back home. Okay? Don't get your houses mixed up. And for him, he got his houses mixed up. He really did. He wasn't taking care of home. He was taking care of the side piece home, but he wasn't taking care of the home. He was biting the hand that literally fed him. Okay? She went for that baby. The baby is innocent. The baby didn't ask to be here. You talking about keep the baby off the pole and this, that, and the third. The baby didn't ask to be here. She's angry with the baby because the baby is the straw that broke the camel back in that relationship. One, because it got out and everybody knew. But I think had her husband never told her about the baby, I think had her husband kept that under wraps and kept that a secret and probably paid her to go away or what have you, I think that she would have been okay with that. How often do we be in relationships? I was in a whole relationship that this dude, he didn't even mention one of the kids that he had. Like, he was short a whole kid. He was short a whole kid. So, when we started dating, he had one kid. By the time we was knee-deep in a relationship, he decided he just want to spring on me one day that he got another kid, right? I'm like, dude, like, why weren't you honest with me? He said, well, if I knew that if I had 2 kids, you weren't going to talk to me. Because that would have been too much baggage for you because you didn't have no children. So, no, I wasn't going to see. That's why I wasn't honest. He wanted what he wanted. He could have had other women, but he wanted me. So even if he had to lie to get me, he did so. Dated another dude. He hid a whole wife. I kid you not. I don't know how you had. Matter of fact, I dated 2 dudes that hid a whole wife. But one dude, it was easy for him to do it because he had been here in this country for like, at that time, he had been here for like 6 or 7 years, right? He's from another country. He hit a whole wife, okay? Like, he literally hit a whole wife. I eventually found out about her because he would go outside and talk on the phone. It was so many other things that gave him away. So he eventually fessed up. Then I had this other guy. He lied about how many baby mamas he had. I mean, it's just, Oh my goodness, it's so crazy the things that we will do when we want what we want, y'all. When you want what you want, you'll do whatever it is to get it, even if that means being manipulative, even if that means lying. You know, like, you will do what you want to do to get what it is that you want. And I'm going to tell you another thing. The reason why Kevin didn't cut her off, Wendy's husband didn't cut the side piece off, because he did the inevitable. He did what he was not supposed to do. Not, I always say, and I said this in my Soul Tie series, so if you haven't listened to that, go back and check that out. He did the inevitable. He came back home with a baby and a soul tie. Ain't too many things that can happen from sex. You can have a soul tie, you can have a baby, you can have a STD. And the only thing we know from the movie and the docuseries, he definitely came back home with a baby, and he dang sure had a soul tie. Because if you carry on a relationship for 16 years and he bought this woman a house, this, that, and the third, and he invested in her. Just the way his wife invested in him, he invested in the side piece. And how many times are we in relationships and, our significant other may still be tied to somebody else? In my case, the person that I was with, he had to be financially invested in other homes. He couldn't just be financially invested in the house that we were staying in together. Because guess what? His money had to go towards another house. He had fiscal responsibilities elsewhere. So that made it much more easier. Okay, well, I'm going over here to see my son, or we going to do this, or we doing that, or whatever. He still can play house over there. Okay? So when Sharina had this baby, it was all bets off for Wendy. But Wendy is in a bitter place right now. She chose not to be with him because this thing got out. It got out of control. In closing, I want to talk about the last thing that I noticed. There were many more. I may do a part 2, so you guys stay tuned. But she said something very powerful. She said, I felt like I had no one to talk to. This is where I'm talking to y'all. She had people to talk to. She didn't want to talk to them. She said her sister would have came down. Her sister would have came and been with her, but she would have made her take a week off work and have somebody to watch the kids and so on and so forth. So she had people to talk to. She couldn't talk to her staff. She couldn't talk to this person. She couldn't talk to her parents. And I'm going to tell you why she felt like she couldn't talk to anybody. You know, when somebody tell you don't do that and you do it anyway, she did not want to be in that position of I told you so. She didn't want, and if somebody care about you, and not saying they people would say that and they don't care about you. Some people just don't have no filter. If people are concerned about your emotions in that immediate state, they will hold off on the I told you so's, or just don't say it at all. Okay? How many times do we as regular people, regular women, how often do we get into situations and we feel like I can't talk to somebody. I can't talk to this person about this. And a lot of times it's because of our pride. Okay? And I talk about that also in the book, I'm Enough. It's about our pride. She felt hurt. She felt destroyed. She felt broken, embarrassed, and all of those things. And I just truly feel like when you isolate yourself, when you get away from interacting and intermingling with people, you make your life about your man. You make your life about your relationship. And I am here to tell you that is not healthy. It is never healthy to be so engulfed in your relationship that you lose yourself. It's never healthy that you lose your identity. You lose your self-worth. You lose your value. And I think she had a whole bunch of trauma that happened to her, starting from her childhood all the way up into her adult life, prior to her meeting and marrying her husband. She she had a lot of trauma she never healed from. And I think she was so used to picking herself up that she never dealt with the issues that knocked her down in the first place. So I implore you, deal with your issues. She hadn't done the inner work. A lot of us have not done the inner work. And I urge you, please do the work. Please do the inner healing that it takes to be a whole person, so that when you choose to go into your next relationship, that you are whole, you are valuable, that you are one with yourself, you are comfortable in your own skin. You're not perfect. None of us will ever be perfect, but you want to be whole. That should always be the goal, to be whole as a person and as a woman. Okay? When you talking, and that's my real advice in relationships. When you talking about being in a relationship, that's my real advice in relationship. That's my whole takeaway from this thing. Be whole and practice gratitude and be very forgiving, especially if you find yourself in a situation like this and you choose to take them back. Be forgiving, but also be wise in your movements and be wise in your choices and be mindful of the things that can come with that. Okay? And I don't mean once a cheater, always a cheater, because we all make mistakes. We all human. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and close out here. I hope that this finds you well wherever you're listening to it, whenever you're listening to it. Till we talk again, y'all. Thanks for joining me. Peace out. It's your girl Keisha signing off. Bye, y'all. Hey, guys. Be sure to go to my website, klsterling.wixsite.com/I'm enough. That's klsterling.wixsite.com/I'm enough. There you can find links to all of my social media platforms, shirts, books, and did I mention I offer free ebooks? Yes. When you go to my website, klsterling.wixsite.com/I'm enough, click on the ebooks link and it will take you directly to the free ebooks that I offer. I look forward to seeing you guys there. Bye.